Hey, it's Andy with Two Dudes Reviews, and I'm about to do my first brisket. I've watched a multitude of videos on YouTube. Tony Franklin in Austin, Texas is undoubtedly the king of Texas brisket. And what I found watching, I don't know, I'd shoot 6 or 8 videos last night on YouTube about how to do a brisket. There is no proper way to do a brisket. The one reigning true thing is low and slow. You want to give this cut of meat a lot of time to break down so it becomes tender. So I'm not going to go over a lot of technical details, but I did want to kind of share with you a couple of things about what we're going to do. I've trimmed this brisket up, and I've trimmed it up. Again, there's 10 different ways to trim a brisket. Everyone says leave a 1/4 to a 1/2 inch of fat on the top of the flat. The point is up here, and anyway, I read all that stuff and watched all the videos, and ultimately what I decided is I'm just going to take and put a fancy rub. Now, Tony Franklin doesn't do that. Texas barbecue is salt and pepper. I respect that. He is the master, but I want to impart a little more flavor into this. So when I wanted to kind of get a really good idea of what to do, I called my buddy Jonesy from Jonesy's Barbecue, Jonesy's Sauce. One of the best barbecue sauces you'll ever have. He's right here in Reno, Nevada. And I talked to Jonesy because I roast coffee for his Jonesy's Java Rub, and that's what he likes to use on a brisket. And so I thought I'd make my own version of Jonesy's Java Rub. I also make another spice blend called Everything Spice, loosely based on Emeril Lagasse's spice, and it's changed over the years as I've added and subtracted things. And if you've watched any of our videos, you know that Jave and I are big fans of dry brining meat. All of my spices have very little salt in them because I do want to get that salt in there. So I'm going to take some kosher salt. I'm not going to put a lot of salt on the fat, just a little bit of that because it won't soak into the meat. So we're just going to give it a kind of a good sprinkle of salt on this meat. And some people said, don't bother with the fat side because it's not going anywhere, this spice flavor. But I think, you know, as this fat renders down a little bit, you're going to have that crust on the meat that you're looking for. So I am going to go ahead and do that. I kind of like to do it. Everyone has a fancy shaker or whatever. Some people say put a ton of spice on. Some people say only enough to just barely cover the meat. I think you use your own judgment. So what I did for my rub here is I used O-Dark 30 coffee from Warrior Roasters. That's our coffee company that supports veterans. So shameless plug. Jave put a link down there somewhere. I used brown sugar in this spice, so we'll get a little sweetness in that. And then the rest is my Everything Spice, which is, it's got paprika and it's got a whole bunch of spices. But it's loosely a Cajun-based spice. Tony Franklin says don't put a whole lot of rub under that flap, so I didn't. And I'm not going to massage this in. I'm just going to kind of pat it down. I'm looking for those dark bits of coffee to show in there. You don't want to have too much. The coffee to sugar ratio is about 1 to 3, 3 parts sugar to 1 part coffee. And then that coffee sugar mixture came in about 50-50 in the rub itself. I've got a dirty hand there, so I'm just going to sprinkle this salt on like this. And we're just going to take, again, a light coating of salt. I want enough salt on there to give you that nice crusty bark. One of the things I saw Tony Franklin do is kind of take his hand here and push that salt up into the edge. I saw a lot of guys didn't salt the edges, and I'm thinking, why wouldn't you salt the edge? It makes perfect sense. So we're just going to take a light coating of salt on here. Everyone has their own method. Just so you know, we are going to be cooking this brisket on the Camp Chef D1X pellet grill. So I'm going to use the competition blend pellets, and this is going to go for probably about 8 to 10 hours. It's only a 9-pound brisket, so we're going to probably lose about 2/3 of that. So we'll end up with about 6 pounds of meat, but we're only feeding about 8 people tomorrow. So this is going to go in like that, and I'm just going to take and kind of put this spice all over this meat. We're going to rub it in. You can see that like the coffee, because it's lighter, is going to move around easier than the rest of the spice. But this is our coffee This is our Warrior Roasters Jonesy's Java Coffee Rub. If you get a chance, Jonesy does ship all over the country. If you're here in Reno, he's a phenomenal caterer as well, and he's got his own catering company. So anyway, I'm going to finish this up. I'm not going to bore you anymore with it. This goes on the pellet grill tomorrow morning at 4 o'clock, and hopefully by 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we'll be having some brisket. So I pulled the brisket. It's about 160 degrees or so. Not going to hurt anything to wrap this thing up. It's already got pretty much all the smoke it's going to get. You can see it's got a really nice kind of crusty little bark on it. And I'm going to mop this with some bouillon, beef bouillon with some Worcestershire sauce that I put in a little dish here. And I'm just going to mop this. What's going to happen is this moisture, apparently, according to my buddy Jonesy, this meat is going to actually baste and braise in its own juices, its own liquid. What I saw on some of the videos that I watched were a lot of the guys were spritzing their brisket with Worcestershire sauce and water, and I'm kind of creating or doing a little bit of the same thing. Plus, I want this jus I'm going to serve with the brisket this afternoon when we dig into this, so people have a little bit of a little choice, right? Barbecue sauce or just a beef jus. So I'm just coating this. I really have no idea what I'm doing because this is the first time I've done a brisket, but we're going to go ahead and do our best with it. And then we're going to wrap this tightly. So I'm just going to take and wrap this thing up, make sure that it's totally sealed. I'm using extra heavy aluminum foil, and I'm gonna probably do another layer of foil over this to make sure that it gets totally sealed in there. We want to wrap it tight so it doesn't lose a whole lot of the moisture. At least that's what I heard in the videos. So stay tuned. We're going to bring this back out, show you what it looks like when it's all done later on this afternoon. Hey, what's up? I didn't film putting the brisket in the smoker
because it's boring.
It's boring. I didn't film pulling it out and putting it in the cooler, but we've been in the cooler for about 2.5 hours after the brisket reached about 205 degrees. So it was jelly, the right feel in the foil. So let's see how it came out. So we're gonna pull it out of the cooler, throw it up there because it's still damn hot. And we really want to see kind of how this thing. Now I will be honest with you, right? You're going to see some juice there. Why? Because when I was testing the feel and the temperature here, I went all the way through and the juice started leaking out. So I added another layer of tin foil. So we have foil in 2 places here, but
what's the internal temp right now?
I have no clue, dude.
About 160
about
maybe?
175, 180.
Okay. Wow, look
So
at that.
here is our brisket. So I'm going to ask for a team effort here. I'm going to put on the gloves. I'm going to pick up this brisket. I'm going to ask Corey to pick up the foil and not spill all the juice because that's wonderful stuff. We're going to take the juice and put it on the cooler or someplace else. But let's go ahead and take the magic Weber, what are these called? Weber Mr. Barbecue gloves. These are cool if you don't have a pair of these. I just got these. Usually I would try and figure out how to pull it with, I don't know, whatever. But you can actually pick this stuff up with your hands. But while we're doing that, let's go ahead and check this. So they say you want it to be like Jell-O. And if you kind of move it around, you're looking at all this juice. There's just kind of squeezed, and you look at the juice underneath there. And I'm going to have my buddy Corey here take that foil away. And we're going to set that down. And I believe
This is your point.
That's our point. That's our flat. So we're going to start carving at the flat halfway through, and then we're going to turn this. So I hear that you're supposed to cut it halfway through. That's all that I've read. I'm going to take off this fabulous glove and put that here on top of the smoker.
Did you already mention your Camp Chef?
I did, the Camp Chef DLX24.
And the Mac knife?
I didn't talk about the Mac knife, but since you're there, you know the funny thing, I've used a number of knives. I've been a Henkel's fan for many years. The problem I find with the German steel is that the German steel doesn't stay sharp very long.
All good, Core.
This thing right here will cut you, and it'll hurt you. But you have to be careful because it's very brittle. So anyway, let's take Jay, if you want to move to the other side of me, and let's take a cut of this right here at the end. So we're going to slice through this brisket, and this just kind of fell away. And let's see if we have a...
Interesting. You got a good smoke ring on the bottom, but not on the top.
Well, that's because I smoked this from the bottom side down, the fat side down.
So a lot of people say fat side down, fat side up.
Right.
What are the two reasonings there?
Well, the fat side down allows a little bit, because the fat side, the bulk of the fat was on the flat of the beef. I trimmed away most of the fat from the point side underneath here as we see it sitting here. Let's check the pull test. So what I hear is that, number one, it's supposed to fall over. Number two, a gentle pull. Wow, that comes right apart. All right, now, and I always wonder why they do this on these videos. I don't know. Number one, can you smell it? Mm-hmm. The smell is fantastic. Now you have to watch me eat it and tell you how wonderful it is. Because what would I say? Oh, it sucks? That's some good shit. I gotta say it. It's some good stuff. So we're gonna go ahead and slice the rest of this up. I'm gonna lay it in the pan here. We're gonna serve it up.
Now, bear in mind, you have the point, which is your fatty brisket, and you have the flat, which is your leaner brisket.
And this is the flat, which is a lean brisket.
So as we start moving through here, the fatty brisket's going to be a little bit more juicy, and probably a little bit rarer. This is all.
It's not. None of it's going to be rare. No, because it's cooked at 200 degrees. And I'm going to be honest, right? The flat is maybe a little dry. Good thing I made a fantastic wet sauce for this brisket. But here is the top of the point. This is that flap that Tony Franklin says don't put rub in there.
Yeah.
But look at all that rub in there. And I didn't put a lot, but a little bit. And I'm going to taste that. And you wish you were here eating this. Let me give you one more shot of that. Wait. Oh my God, that's good. Oh.
Nice. I think I honestly